You're listening to the Personal Mastery Podcast with Ari Baga. Interviewing CEOs and executives who are performing at the highest level in their industry. Those who are living and working purposefully towards a vision in alignment with their values and in a state of constant learning about the self. Welcome to another episode of the Personal Mastery Podcast. And in today's episode, we have my good friend Vivian Kaye. She's the founder and CEO of KinkyCurlyYaki, a business she has bootstrapped to over $6 million in revenue. She is a passionate mother who has started multiple seven-figures businesses. And in today's episode, we're going to talk about how to start your e-commerce business, how to niche down properly, and how to build a community so that when you launch your business, you don't have to pay for a customer every single time. There's a lot of good stuff in this episode, so let's jump right in. Here's Vivian Kaye. Vivian, welcome to the show.
Hey, well, I'm glad to be here. Thanks for having me.
Yeah, you got a cool background there. Is that a real tree?
No, that is not a real tree. But if you see me on Instagram, all those are real. That's my one fake tree because I don't have any actual daylight coming into my office. But yeah, no, it's on brand, eh? This is my brand.
Yeah, I've been thinking about getting a couple plants here too. Actually, this morning I'm like, maybe I could use a few plants here because, I don't have any plants around me.
Oh my goodness, they will brighten up your day without you realizing it. You should get something that is that suits your lifestyle though. Don't go and get any plant that just looks dope and then next thing you know is dead within a week because you don't have the right conditions for it, right? So just keep an eye out for that.
Definitely. Yeah. And I think we're both born in the same country. Right?
Well, let's see. So I was born in Ghana.
Oh, okay.
Yeah,
I was born in Togo.
I know, but both my parents' moms are from Togo.
Oh, okay.
Yeah. So that's where the Togo comes in. But yeah.
Mm-hmm. And when did you move here?
So I moved to Canada when I was a baby. So I was in my mom's lap. So I was about 2 years old.
Oh, wow.
Yeah. So, a baby.
Yeah, I only moved here it's almost 10 years now.
Wow.
It hasn't been too long actually, if you think about it.
So what do you how do you think, what made you move here? Wait, whose show is this? Yours or mine? What made you move here, Ari?
I don't know. My mom was already here and she wanted me to just go to school here. So it just made sense. And it's so funny because I ended up dropping out.
Wow. And you know what's so funny? Same thing here. So I know with my parents are like, we didn't bring you here to do this. Yeah. Right.
Yeah. So you went to school here, like middle school, high school. I'm assuming, well, it's probably, is it the same
no, it's not the same
Canada?
setup. No. So up here we just have elementary school. So say, from kindergarten all the way to 8th grade. And then high school, which is grade 9. And I'm older. So we used to have a grade 13, which was basically the year, it was a prep year for post-secondary. And so I did all the way to OAC. And interestingly enough, so back to the tying in the whole Togo thing. So my parents sent me to French immersion from grade 6 all the way to OAC, the end of high school, to learn French so that I could read the letters coming in from Togo asking for money. Asking for l'argent,
Yeah, l'argent.
So yeah, that's a little side story.
Yeah, so you didn't go to, you graduated, I guess, high school and then you went to college.
Yeah, but so up here it's very distinct. So there's college and then there's university. So after and it's the same it's the same difference, but we really make that distinction up here. So, college is more what do you want to call it? Like more hands-on trade, that type of thing, whereas university is all books. right?
Mm-hmm.
Or, so the book smats. So I was the one who went to the book smats. So I went to university, and then dropped out a year later.
Yeah, I think it was kind of the same setup in Togo, where like when you hear someone's going to university, they're supposed to like be like very smart and stuff like
Mm-hmm.
that.
Mm-hmm.
And then when you hear someone's going to college, it's like whatever.
Yeah, they're just going to learn a trade or,
Yeah.
although, trades and things are good things. I'm not sure why it's made out to be a bad thing, but
Yeah.
I don't know, maybe we should work on changing that. Okay, maybe it's not our job.
Yeah. Yeah. So after dropping out, did you like get into business, or what did you do?
I went straight to work because I
Okay.
was bilingual. And
Okay.
I'm here. I'm based out of just based out of Toronto. So Canada is a bilingual country, so English and French.
Okay.
And when you are bilingual, you get that leg up on jobs, because pretty much every company would require someone on their team that spoke French. So I was in jobs that I don't want to say I didn't have any business having, but I didn't have the education to be in that job. But I had the French and I had the charisma.
Mm-hmm.
And I had the roll up my sleeves attitude to let them feel that I'm up to the task of doing whatever it is that they need me to do. So my first job after dropping out was customer service, working in a call center. And it was there, and it was for a bank, and I was the only person in that department. Um,
Wow.
Yes, because I was the only one that spoke French. So for that particular, because I worked for a section that back in the day, before we had the swipe machines,
Mm-hmm.
people would call in with your credit card numbers, and they would, the system would either say yes, or, approve or decline. And if it
Mm-hmm.
declined, I would be the next person that they would speak to, and I would tell them why. I would try it again, and if it was
Yeah.
declined, I would tell them why it was declined. So that was me.
Wow.
Yeah.
Yeah.
This is like 20 years ago now. Yeah.
Wow. So how did you get into business? Like I know you started a decoration company, right?
Yes. Yes.
Yeah.
So I'm one of four girls. So I have three sisters and I'm the second oldest. And the oldest one was getting married. And she was the first one to get married. So we had hired a decorator
Okay.
from a Ghanaian decorator, actually. And she said, "Oh, I'll do everything for 1,000." So we were like, "Okay, cool." Everyone knew who she was, that community, those community people that everyone uses.
Yeah.
So same thing. And then maybe about 2 weeks before her wedding, she said, "Oh, I'm going to need another 1,000." But she didn't tell us why. She was just saying, "Oh, I just
Yeah.
need more money." And I was like, "What do you mean you need more money? You need to tell us why." But she couldn't tell us why.
Okay.
And so then at the time we had to just hire another decorator because she was refusing to decorate the wedding for what she agreed to do originally. So that decorator was craptastic. And I thought to myself, why is it so complicated to hire a decorator within our community, within the Ghanaian, the West African community? And I thought, in my 9 to 5. So the 9 to 5 that I had, while I was running this side hustle was, I was a marketing coordinator for a franchise company. And I worked a lot with real estate agents.
Mm-hmm.
And this was when home staging really started to become a thing. And I had some interest in there, but then I hated real estate agents. So I decided I didn't want to do that, but I had an interest in decor. So I saw this gap in the market
Mm-hmm.
to provide decor that is simple but fabulous for brides who doesn't necessarily need to spend down payments on houses on their wedding decor. Like,
Mm-hmm.
there's no need to be spending $30,000 on decor. That's a down payment for a house, right? So that's the niche that I catered to. Brides who wanted simple yet fabulous decor. And I literally started it by hiring a rental company. So a company that would rent out inventory, but they also would do setups. So I would hire them to do the setups. I did the customer support. So I would meet with brides. I would talk them into packages. Like, I would sell things. I wasn't quite sure if I could do it, but I sold it. And then would hire them to help me do the setups. And then I would watch them do the setups. And then eventually I took what they taught me and did it myself. and made it my own. And then grew that into a 6-figure business.
Wow. So before actually like getting into making it like your main thing, like, so you were doing it on the side. So you
I was
didn't
doing
like
it on the
quit.
side.
Okay.
No. So I actually got let go
Oh, wow.
from that job. So I'll tell you the story about that. You want me to tell you a story about that?
Yeah. Is it because of your French or?
Oh, no, not because of my French. No. What happened was the person who hired me onto that job was very similar to me. So he was very roll up your sleeves, get stuff done. Can we curse on this?
Yeah.
Okay, yeah. Well, get shit done. And he was someone who started off as an usher in the movie theater and worked his way up to like a VP of Cineplex, which is like our AMC or whatever, the movie theater business. And he also was a college dropout. So he saw a lot of himself in me and hired me into that position, knowing that I didn't have the qualifications, but I had the I'll figure it outness. Right. And so then we were getting along fabulously. He knew about my side hustle. He actually helped me get my first because at the time I was driving like say a 93 Honda Accord or something, and he helped me upgrade into like an SUV so I could do my business. Like it's a crazy story. He came with me to the car dealership and he talked golf with the other white guy and and helped get me a car. And so then he helped me do that, but then he got lured back to the movie business to go be like a VP. And so then they replaced him with like a more corporate soldier type of guy from Sears. So, big difference between a guy who dropped out of high school and, worked his way up, and then the guy who's a corporate soldier, a former corporate soldier for Sears. So he came in, he was very, do everything by the book, but I was very, hey, let's just throw spaghetti at the wall and see what sticks. So our values didn't really go together. So after about, I think it was like 6 or 8 months or something of working together, he just decided it wasn't working. And he was like, oh, well, you have your business. So I was like, oh, word. Okay, cool. All right. And, at the time I was like, let's say, I think I was 30 in my early 30s. So I had nothing to lose. Like I had no kids. I didn't have a mortgage. I didn't have anything to really worry about. So that was the time to just, you know what? I was already doing it half-ass. And I said, well, what if I just put my full ass into it and just go for it? So I did.
Yeah. And I feel like right now, a lot of people are in that situation where like when you don't have a job, like you pretty much don't have anything to lose. So you can do whatever you want to do. Right. So if you ever had like an idea, like of a business or crazy things that you want to try, I feel like right now is also like a perfect time to do that.
Absolutely. Absolutely.
Yeah. So, how did the decoration business lead into your current business, KinkyCurlyYaki?
Well, it was while doing that business that so again, I'm in Toronto. I had moved from serving my own community into the greater Toronto area, which is Toronto's one of the most diverse cities in the world. So I was doing South Asian weddings, Italian weddings, Middle Eastern weddings. I was doing everyone's weddings. So I needed to look quote unquote presentable. And if you're a Black woman, you sort of understand what that means. That means you need to have your hair looking a certain way as to not scare the white people, right? So at the time, we were, a lot of women was relaxing. They were relaxing their hair. So they're putting chemicals into their hair to make it look bone straight, but that's not the way our hair grows out of our heads. So a lot of times we wear what's called a protective style. So a protective style is weaves, wigs, braids. So if you're seeing Beyonce or Oprah or Serena Williams, they are 99% of the time wearing a protective style because that's just easier to manage than to deal with our own hair. So if you have any friends with curly hair or if you know any women with curly hair, it takes them forever to do their hair. So for Black women, it's that times 10. So, and then plus the societal pressure to fit into that European beauty of standard of beauty. That's something that was something that we've grown up having to live up to. But by the early 2000s or, the early 2010s, we got tired of doing that shit. So I wanted to find hair extensions that looked like my hair and made me feel like myself. And what that means is that most hair extensions are of Indian origin. And then, of course, when you're of African descent, you typically have really tight coiled hair. So the hair doesn't really blend properly, or it doesn't match. And so it looks terrible. I wanted something that looked like my hair. So when I went looking for it on the websites, I found that it was buried underneath the silkier European looking textures. And I thought at the time, this is back in 2011, I thought at the time, why doesn't anyone just focus on just kinky textures? But because my business was doing so well, I sort of filed it in the back of my mind and I went about my business. Like I was not interested. I'd already, set up this first business by fluke and it was doing really well. I didn't want to jinx it by starting something else. Right.
Yep.
But then what happened was I went to a meetup. Like I went to a networking event. And another Black woman pulled me aside. This is while I was wearing, so I'd done all my own QA, like all that stuff. And I was now wearing the hair that I had found. And a Black woman pulled me aside and asked me who my hairdresser was and what my regimen was for keeping my hair looking the way it was. And I was like, girl, this is a weave. And she was like, wow, I would buy that. And that's when the light bulb went off, because I thought, well, if I bought it and she would buy it, there's got to be at least a dozen other women who would buy it too. Mm-hmm. So then in the down season of my wedding business in December of 2012, I launched KinkyCurlyYaki. I was just like, let's do it. Why not?
Yeah. Yeah. So two things here. I think there's some sort of trend in the way you started the first business and the second business, right? You were talking to the ideal customers and figure out like a need and came up with a solution, right? And that's one of the things that it's so simple. Like you can just take a look at around like where you spend money or people that you're engaging with already and just find like new business ideas.
Yeah, you just really, all it is just solving your own problems. Like look at your pain points. Like what is bothering you every day? What would make your life easier? And do that. People who are like that, that's the one thing I always advocate with starting businesses. Don't start a business because it's on trend or someone's making millions of dollars, because guess what? You're going to be stuck with that business whether you like it or not. So you might as well like it and have a genuine interest in it. But yeah.
Yeah. So recently you made a course for Shopify that talks about niching down, right? I watched it. I thought it was great content.
Thank you.
So you're yeah. So you're like super like niche down, like it's a specific type of hair for a specific type of people. So can you talk a little bit more about why it's important to niche down and why it's important to go as deep as possible?
Well, niching is really, if you're starting a business, niching is what helps to get your foot in the door. So when you just if you just launch a company and it's like, let's just say it's, I don't know, mugs or, whatever this is, it's a water bottle, right?
Yeah.
If you don't niche it, you're just going to get lost in the shuffle. You're going to get lost in the landscape because there's millions of water bottles. But if you specifically niche this down to, you're making colorful water bottles for people, for busy professionals who need to get their water intake. And they want to do it in style. That's speaking to a very specific group of people. So one, that makes your how you actually capture that customer much cheaper, because you're speaking to a very specific group of people. It makes your marketing easier, because again, you know exactly who you're speaking to. But if you're just creating I'm just going to sell water bottles. Well, everyone uses a water bottle. That doesn't make it any special. So what makes it special for that person is why you need to niche it down. So I'm a big advocate in niching it. Like even if it's the simplest thing, like a water bottle, bring it down to the most basic reason why you're creating a water bottle. You're creating a water bottle because, I don't know, you're tired of, you want something sustainable. Okay. But I also want something sustainable and funky. Okay. And I want something sustainable and funky and helps keep me on track of, my water intake. Like everything can be niched. So it's always better to go deep within a niche than it is to go wide, because otherwise you're speaking to nobody. It's like lighting a match in the wind. and thinking it's going to stay, lit, but it's not. It's just going to get blown out. But if you, I don't even know how I'm going to finish that analogy, but when you niche, when you go deep within something and you really speak to a very specific group of people, you're going to create raving fans for that product, because they're like, wow, someone made this just for me. And those are the best customers to have, because guess what? They're going to tell everyone they know about that product.
Oh yeah, I totally agree with that. And I think like when it comes to like niching also helps with branding, because like branding is all about connecting with that customer like on a deeper level.
Yep.
And because they feel that you're speaking directly with them, and you're very specific about the problem that you're trying to solve, you connect with people a lot better, actually.
Yeah. And that's what people create. People don't necessarily buy products. They buy the connection. They buy the idea behind it. They buy the person, the lifestyle, whatever it is. The connection is what keeps people buying and buying and buying again from you.
Mm-hmm. So I think one of the biggest problems that people have with niching now is that they're scared that, oh, I'm only going to have like 100,000 people or only 1 million people to market to. Is that like a problem, or how do you kind of like solve that?
It's understandable, because it does feel like, oh my goodness, no one's ever going to buy that product. But again, because your marketing costs are lower, your branding will be more efficient and more succinct. You're speaking to a very specific person. They are going to be your biggest fans. So what you want to do, listen, if you want to just use niche to get your foot in the door, then do that, right? Because what you're going to do is you're going to create this subset of customers who love you. So then let's just say if you start off with water bottles, let's just say next thing you want to do is stainless steel water bottles. Guess what? Those customers will buy it because they already bought into your branding. They already bought into your why, right? And so I wouldn't be afraid. If you're afraid, then you shouldn't be in business, because that's what this is all about. Being in business is all about taking risks. And if you're not willing to solve a problem, to solve a pain point for one specific group of people and blow it out of the park, then why are you even doing it?
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I can totally relate with that too. I think with my agency too, we started out specifically doing text marketing for e-commerce businesses, right? And my idea was that like if I went into the space and just did like 10 different services, just like every other agency, like no one would care. But if you do something really specific, then people want to learn from it. And also you become even better at it because you only do that one thing, right?
You become the expert. Like when I think of SMS marketing, I think of you, because I know you're an expert and that's all you do. Whereas if you become like you said, an agency that does, okay, you do this and you do this and you do that. Well, you're not going to do any of that stuff well because you're too busy doing everything. But if you stick to one thing and do it really, really well, guess what? People will remember you, right? So now I always remember you as the SMS guy, right? People remember you. It's easier for you to market. You're going to save money in the long run, and it's going to give your business focus. Because if you're not chasing after the shiny new thing, because all you do is SMS marketing. All you do is colorful water bottles. That's it. You don't think nothing shiny will attract you. So it's good. Don't be afraid. If you're scared, then maybe find something else to do, because this ain't it.
Right. And is it possible to eventually go up market? Like if you're niching down like very specific, right? Is it possible to over time expand an audience? Is that how like you usually recommend it? Because I think it's great to start small.
Absolutely.
And then expand it, right?
Absolutely. Get good. Like that's the point of niche, right? Is to get your foot in the door, is to be so well known for doing that one thing really, 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 really well, that when you're ready to drop that next thing, you already built the trust. You already built the audience. So they know, oh, whatever they're about to drop, I'm buying, because they already established their expertise, their know-how, their trust in that first thing that they drop. So I'm going to trust them no matter what they drop next, as long as it makes sense. Like don't go from water bottles to dog leashes. That doesn't make any sense. Unless the water bottles are for animals. That's a niche right there. Queen of niche. That's me.
Yeah. Yeah, that'll be very interesting to look at. That's a funny idea though. Water bottles for dogs.
Yeah, for dogs. Colorful
Yeah,
water bottles. Like, think about it. And then you got matching leashes, and then you can get
yeah,
matching toys. Like, you can make it a whole thing. Again, you're
yeah,
speaking to a very specific group of people who love their dogs and they like colorful stuff.
yeah. And you might think that you're the only one who has that problem, but there's probably hundreds of thousands of people who have that same problem. And I think that's where people tend to like not jump into it because they feel that, oh, I'm the only person who has that problem.
No. If you think about it, like, listen, Amazon started out selling books, only
Mm-hmm.
books, and they got really good at selling books. And now look where they are. Now, of course, Amazon is the exception and not the
Mm-hmm.
norm. But if you use them as a case study, or even any big brand that you see today, they started out with one thing. Apple started out with a desktop computer. You know, Coke started out with Coke. Right? Google started out with just a search engine. Like, everyone got really, really good at doing that one thing. And then once they were basically synonymous with whatever that thing is, then they could branch out into other things.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. And you've been able to grow this business to well over 7 figures a year. I just wanted to talk about some of the lessons that you've learned along the way. And obviously you've,
So you want to talk about the lessons, man.
yeah.
The lessons I've learned along the way.
Yeah, maybe like top 3 lessons.
Top 3. Yeah, let's do that because
Yeah.
we could be here all day. Top 3, I would say, is follow your gut. You know your business like you know your business. You know it inside out. And then sometimes when you start to bring in other people into your business, they, especially even if you've communicated the vision of the business, sometimes they don't quite have it. So sometimes you got to make decisions, and you know in your gut that that's not the right decision to make. Follow that gut, because every single time I have made a decision that I knew in my gut was not the right decision to do, it backfired. So that's one thing. So follow your gut, follow your intuition. Number 2, don't be worried about being motivated all the time, because you're not going to be motivated all the time. Motivation is dependent on how you feel. So what you really should keep focus on is consistency. It's doing the shit you don't want to do day in and day out that will get you through. Right? So it's not about, oh, well, I feel like doing this today and you did it today, but guess what? You're not going to feel like doing it next week, but you have to do it. So consistency over motivation. And then finally, just as an overall, like an overarching thing, being an entrepreneur is not a sprint. It is a marathon. So it's sort of like number 2, but I just want to reiterate that, because, if you watch YouTube enough, these guys will have you thinking that, you should have been a millionaire, 6 months ago after you took their $3,000 webinar, right? That is not the reality. Their business is based on taking your money and not actually growing an actual business and making it sustainable. So you have to remember that being an entrepreneur is a marathon and it's not a sprint.
Yeah, those are some great points. And I think I recently had Matt Higgins from the Shark Tank on the show. And one of the things that he said, which goes back to your first point, is it's not about looking at, oh, what do people know, or like, what does this person think about how I should run my business? It's about, like, what do I know? Like, looking into yourself to figure out, okay, how can I follow my intuition? How can I make the right decisions? Because like everybody out there is telling you what to do like every day, right? There's tons of videos like how to run a business. Is that something that you agree with too? Like,
Well, yeah, I agree with that. Like, it's not anyone that promises you a blueprint to do something is lying. Because one, you are not them. They are not you. You're not going to run your business the way they did. 2, you don't have the same motivations, right? So, or you're the same why, right? So you cannot compare yourself to that person. And then lastly, it's just going to do you a huge disservice to follow a blueprint, because what worked for them won't necessarily work for you. And really the key to success in being an entrepreneur is in learning from the stuff that you failed at. Right? It's in learning, it's in growing. And when you fail at something, you're like, okay, cool. You know what? That didn't work out, but what did I learn from that? And that makes you more confident. Then you're able to make informed decisions in your business. So all these people who are saying, oh, I'm going to teach you how to make $1 million in 30 days if you follow my blueprint, doing you a huge disservice, because really, the key to success is in learning to trust yourself to make the right decisions for your business.
Mm-hmm.
Period.
Yeah, and that comes from like also taking action quickly, right?
Yeah.
Because like you need that feedback loop to know, okay, this is what I did, this is why it didn't work, and this is what I learned from it. Because if you're not taking action, then
pivot.
Yeah, nothing happens if there's no action.
Yeah, if you need to pivot. So if you started out with water bottles for people and it's not working, sell them to dogs.
Yeah. So you've been able to run this business profitably. Is there a way to set up your business to be profitable from day one? Because that's something that businesses are struggling with today, especially the ones that are raising tons of money. Is there like a secret sauce or some different ways that you've been able to start profitably?
Well, I didn't raise any money. So that's the first thing. I started, you see this Rubbermaid bin back here?
Yep.
So this isn't the exact one, but I have one at home, but it's how I started my business, is where I started my business. Someone would buy one, I would take that money and buy two. So I started from zero. So I bootstrapped my business to over 6 million in sales by myself without any outside capital, and without anything.
Mm-hmm.
I literally I just literally, I bought one, I would buy two. Someone would buy 10, I'd buy 20. Like, that's how I built my business. So I would say start lean, especially if you're an e-commerce store. Don't get seduced by all the apps. You don't need all those apps. It's going to slow down your store, and it's just going to eat, like, you think, oh, it's just $5 a month. That $5, amplifies, right? Like it adds up. So be wary of the apps. So just run as lean as possible. Do as much as you can as the startup. Run yourself ragged. If you've got a 9 to 5, then you're working on your business from 5 to 9 or 5 to 2 or whatever it is. Do as much as you can until you can't do it anymore. And then you know your business so well that when you start to hand off the reins to other people, you know exactly who you need to hire. You're not going to hire an agency. You're going to hire a Facebook guy, and all he does is Facebook ads. Not he does some Google paid ads, not he does some Pinterest. No, all he does is Google. And you're going to pay him for that expertise, and he's not going to cost you, an arm and a leg, because he just does that, and that's all he does for your business, right? But at least you have a good idea of what's happening in your business. So when you go to hire all these experts, no one's rinsing you, right? So I would say start lean, do as much as you can, as long as you can. Like I started my business in December of 2012. I hit my first million in November of 2016. So that was 4 years of me doing this. And actually I hired my first employee in June of 2016. And then by November, I hit my first million. But that's because I was able to now work on the business instead of in the business. Mm-hmm. And so, but you need to go through all that in order to get there, if you want it to be sustainable.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, that's what I like, the idea of bootstrapping, because you learn so much from it. Because like it's your own money, right? Like at the end of the day, you have to pay the bills. You can't let it fail. So it really allows you to watch your money, save your money, and reinvest it back into business. Otherwise, like you're just going to go out of business.
And you know what? The win, the win, it'll just be that much juicier. Like to know, like I didn't know that I bootstrapped until 2018. I didn't know what that meant. I thought everybody was building $1 million e-commerce businesses, but it turns out they're not. But And that's another thing, you know, when you're looking at all these people who are like, yeah, I can help you build $1 million in business. Is it profitable? Ask them. How much are they? What are their margins like? Ask them that. Because
Yeah.
you can easily make $1 million, but are you making money? Right. So yeah.
Mm-hmm. Now I want to get into community building a little bit here because your business is based on community building, right? Having that community of people who are interested in the product. Is there a right way or wrong way to start building a community?
Well, I was building a community before that's what it was called. So because I was trying to solve my own problem, which is finding kinky textured hair extensions, I was in Black hair care forums and Facebook groups. And being Vivian, I was just being myself. And so I sort of built up this reputation. And it's funny because when I launched KinkyCurlyYaki, I didn't tell anyone it was me. Mm-hmm. What happened was someone outed me and said, oh, you know, this girl who's been in our Facebook groups is the one behind this company. And she thought everyone would be like, oh my God, no, we hate her. They were like, oh, all the more reason to support her because I had a reputation. Right. So I'd built up the community without even realizing it. And then once I was quote unquote outed, then I used that to my advantage because a lot of companies, particularly in this Black hair care space, aren't owned by Black people. So I was able to speak directly to my consumers or my customers because I am the customer. I get high on my own supply. So I'm able to, I'm able to speak in tones and say things that only they would understand. And they know that I understand. Whereas a lot of these other companies now, like even we just found one yesterday who stole all the pictures off our website, took all the words off, took all the copy off our website. But we know for a fact it's not a Black woman because that's the magic sauce. That's what makes KinkyCurlyYaki is me. They can't duplicate that. So that's where I win. And I reinforce that in the brand. Like I let people know I am just like you, girl. I am your girlfriend selling you this product, or I'm not even selling it. I'm providing you with this product and you just so happen to be paying me for it.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. And the first thing that I like there is you were in the groups and you were adding value to people, right? You were answering questions.
Yep.
And that's what goes into community building. Like you have to actually provide the content. And I think a lot of
and become an expert.
Yeah. Yeah. So you have to know your stuff. You have to speak directly to the customers and actually add value because a lot of marketers are looking to build a community without creating any content or adding any value.
Like, so you just want to roll up in a Reddit forum, but think that, here's my product, boom, and think people are going to buy it? No. What you need to do is you need to have been in that subreddit for a hot minute, providing value, answering questions, becoming the expert. And then when you do drop that product, it's a no-brainer. Of course I would buy it from that person because he's proven that he knows what the fuck he's talking about.
Mm-hmm. And that really helps with like launching too, because like you can launch profitably out the gate because you have people wanting the product. Because I think for the brands that are either raising money or launching the product before having an audience, the difficulty is that they have to pay for a customer every single time. And that's the main reason why most brands aren't profitable today.
Right. And it drives me nuts because I had the audience, I had the proof, I have the profit, but I wasn't able to get money because they were so busy focused on some unicorn that they thought was going to blow it out of the park. And now those unicorns are dead. Sorry, unicorns.
Yeah. So now growing this business, and being an entrepreneur, we all know what it takes, right? Are there like specific things that you do, whether that's like a routine that really helps you in like taking action or performing at a high level every day?
Well, I did have one until COVID hit. Yeah, because that sort of threw me for a loop because up until then I had like a whole gym routine, I had a gratitude journal, like I had a whole thing going, it was going great, and then boom, because I'm a single mom, so I have a 6-year-old son, and he's home, so it's like, okay, now I can't do all the routine things that I used to do. I started working from home, like right here I'm in my office, whereas there I was working from home. So now I'm starting to get back into the swing of things. But One of the things I do is I work out. Like it's my antidepressant, right? It makes me feel better. It helps me focus. It helps me think clearly. I also journal. I do manifestations and I do affirmations. I tap into more of my spiritual side because as a woman, I feel like I have a lot of intuition, like a lot of things that tell me what to do, and I just need to tap into that. So I focus on that. I focus on joy. I do things that make me happy and bring me joy. And I read a lot. I used to read a lot. I used to listen to a lot of podcasts and audiobooks, but I'm not going anywhere. My commute's too short now. But yeah, no, there's if there's one thing about being an entrepreneur is to get a routine. Because again, it's that consistency, doing the things you need to do day in and day out that's one of the keys to success.
So are your routines more focused on making, obviously you fit work in between, but kind of doing things that make you happy? Because I think like people sometimes, like I've heard, like wake up, dive right in from work at like 4 a.m. and then at like 9 or 10 p.m. I mean, that's like what's cool in entrepreneurship, right? Just wake up at 4 a.m. every day and then just hustle until.
Yeah, ask those people if they're happy. Ask those people if they're happy. Right? No, I wanted this life so I could have the freedom to do what I wanted to do. Obviously, everything that I do isn't what I want to do, but I would say I'm relatively happy because I get to do a lot of things that make me happy. So I mean, if that works for you, that works for you. But that's not me. I'm not part of that 5 a.m. or 4 a.m. club. I'm a night owl, so I'm up till 2, 3 o'clock in the morning because that's when my brain goes. Like that's when all the ideas come to me. But yeah.
Yeah, that's kind of like
it. I love it.
Yeah, so that's like when I first started, like I was doing the whole 4 a.m. thing, which I liked because they helped me build a lot of discipline, but it wasn't like making me happy. So I like completely changed my routine. Now I just like to do things, just work on myself in the morning and even after work, and just try to fit work in between it.
Yep.
Instead of like doing work and then just trying to fit personal stuff within like your routine.
Exactly. I mean, that's the reason why you became an entrepreneur, right? So yeah, no, that's a good way to think of it, Ari.
Well, on that note, thanks so much for being on the podcast. And where can people find you?
I am an absolute pleasure to follow on Instagram. I'm on Twitter, but I come across better on Instagram. My stories are legit. So you can find me on Instagram at It's Vivian Kaye, ITSVIVIANKAYE. I have a show called an IGTV show called Mind Your Business with Vivian Kaye. So it's a weekly show where I talk about everything related to your business, your mindset, and making money. So that's a show that I do on IGTV. I drop a new episode every Friday. So if you're coming from Ari's show, slide into my DMs and say what's up. Don't be afraid to say hi.
Welcome to the extras portion of this podcast. So I have Vivian here, and she's going to answer 2 awesome questions for us. The first one is, how do you learn to trust your intuition?
Good one. Good one. So how do you learn to trust your intuition? First of all, you need to listen to your body. Like you'll know, like, so, let's just say, you can always feel someone just staring at you and you turn around and they're like, that's the intuition because you can feel it. So you just learn to listen by listening, like actively listen. So, I would say maybe start to practice mindfulness exercises, or ask yourself questions and ask yourself in the third person, right? So it's like, okay, so Vivian, what are we doing about this? You'll immediately feel like, let's just say if you're going to have an answer. Once you say, Vivian, what should we do about this? Should we go for it? Yes. Like your body's just going to automatically do it. If you don't want to do it, you don't want to do it. So you just need to learn to listen to that. And I would practice on simple stuff. Like, do you want to eat a taco or do you want to eat a burger? Ooh, taco. That's your intuition, right? So just learn to follow that.
Yeah. Do you want to make bottles for dogs or humans?
No, I don't want to make bottles for dogs and humans. I want to make stuff for Chad. This is my mantra. What would Chad do? That's who I want to make stuff for, people who need that.
It's awesome. And second question, if you were to start over today, what business would you start?
If I was to start over today, what business would I start? I would, you know what? So what I do is kinky textured hair extensions for Black women. My business is KinkyCurlyYaki. And really, I could care less about hair. I don't really particularly care about it. But what I am passionate about is giving Black women the confidence to show up as themselves. Mm-hmm. So if I was to start this business again, I wouldn't do anything different. I would probably do it more, do it more sexy, like with a 3PL and, all the headache that I went through in starting the business, we still do our own fulfillment. All that stuff that we did at the beginning, I probably would do it smarter. I would work smarter as opposed to harder. But again, because I started the business to solve my own problem, that's the reason why it ended up the way it did. But I wouldn't change anything about it. So I would say I would do the same business over again. I would just do it smarter. And I would probably, if anything, it would just be a product to give people confidence, because that's, at the end of the day, that's what everyone needs. So yeah.
Awesome. Well, thanks again for being on the podcast, and hopefully we can have you on the show if you end up starting another business.
Oh yeah, it's gonna be water bottles or something.
Water. Yeah, I know.
I don't want to do that.
Yeah, we talked a lot about water bottles today, so
I think we've had enough. All right. Well, thank you for having me on, Ari.
I really hope you enjoyed this episode with Vivian. If you're listening on Spotify or iTunes, make sure to follow this podcast and leave us a 5-star review. And if you're watching on YouTube, make sure to like, comment, and subscribe for more episodes like this. And as always, thanks again for listening to another episode of the Personal Mastery Podcast.